They score! They score!
Welcome to God's Playbook with your host, Father Rico Passero.
Lock at the 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Touchdown!
Let's play ball.
Hi friends, welcome back to God's Playbook. We continue our series on the commandments and we're up to commandment number 7. Thou shalt not steal. When we look at the 7th and the 10th commandments, they focus on respecting and honoring the possessions of others. The 7th commandment, which we're going to look at today, forbids the act of taking someone else's property. Thou shalt not steal. And even children recognize that stealing is wrong. As adults, we need to recognize that taking something that doesn't belong to us is indeed a sin. But it doesn't just stop at something in a material way in regards to personal property. The church believes that this commandment also denounces cheating people of their money, their dignity, their property, depriving workers of a just wage, or not giving employers a full day's work for a full day's pay. Other topics that fall under this umbrella are embezzlement of money, fraud, tax evasion, vandalism. These are also extensions of violations of the 7th commandment. So let's unpack the commandment a bit. Thou shalt not steal. Have there been times in which we have taken something that does not belong to ourselves? Oftentimes, this is taking something that we desire or want without another's permission. We also have to think of the times in which, at work, where we steal our employer's time. And sometimes we can rationalize that. Well, I'm the hardest working person in this department, so my 1 hour lunch should really be an hour and a half. Or my 15-minute break should really be a half an hour. That's stealing time. This is sinful as well. Or you might think, well, it's just a pen. It's just a pack of paper. It's just. We try to rationalize. We take something from our workplace that doesn't belong to us. For our young people, sometimes those of us that have jobs, we do the same thing. We think that we can just take something because this person is wealthy, our boss is wealthy, they aren't going to miss it, or we try to justify that we deserve it, when this is not the case. God never wants us to try to rationalize our behavior to take things that belong to others. As young people, we also need to be very aware of, while we're at school, that we shouldn't be taking things that don't belong to us, whether it's from a friend or a colleague, or whether it's something that belongs to the teacher or perhaps the school itself. We need to really recognize that by respecting the property of others, we show our respect for God too. We also need to look at gambling. Gambling in itself is not sinful, and yet when people gamble excessively, they're robbing their family of their needs. So it seems like, in a sense, it is stealing from our own family unit. Instead of putting aside money for perhaps our next vacation, or a mortgage payment, or one of the utility bills, sometimes when people fall into the traps of excessive gambling, this robs the family of some of their basic needs. We also need to look at this commandment in light of sharing with others. Do I share with those who are poor and needy? Am I generous in what I give to the church, to other charities? We have to realize that God expects us to tithe, which means giving 10% of what we make and our time, talent, and treasure with God and one another. Are we stealing from those who are in need by being selfish or hoarding our own resources rather than sharing them freely with one another? What about living as a good citizen? Am I embezzling monies and trying to justify that in many ways? Do I participate in fraud of any kind? Do I pay my taxes on time? And do I report my taxes properly? Do I vandalize or take advantage of other people's resources, perhaps even at a restaurant or a place where I do business? Do I respect that that is someone else's property? Or do I take things lightly and forget the seventh commandment? You see, friends, this commandment is so important for us to truly recognize and realize our need and responsibility to live in community with others, to be a good citizen, to learn how to share, to not be selfish. In regards to those who have employees, am I paying a just wage to them? Am I allowing their families to live as a result of my employment? Do I ensure that they are getting their basic human needs met? Or am I looking to take advantage of them in many ways? Do I pay a just wage for the work that I expect them to complete? Also, am I paying a full day's wage for a full day's work? Or do I put pressure or stresses on my staff to work outside of the hours that are expected in completion of that job? You see, as employers, we can also steal from our employees because we feel that we are in a position of authority and are able to do so. If the job description develops, if it's a busy time at work, perhaps things like overtime or compensating my staff members in a different way ensures that as an employer, I am not breaking the seventh commandment. So the seventh commandment has to do with the human person, respect for the human person's goods, and also this idea of social justice. Let us ask God to help us to be more respectful of others and not to be greedy. Stealing hurts others and hurts ourselves too. We need to live by the model, do unto others as we would have done to us, the golden rule. And so by respecting one another and committing ourselves not to steal and to take what does not belong to us, we live by the golden rule. For God's Playbook, I'm Father Rico. God loves you and so do I.
If you like what you hear, please consider supporting us on our Ko-Fi, Ko-Fi, or GoFundMe at God's Playbook Podcast. Thanks, and God bless.